got a single coming out on Friday, Walker, which is, by the way, fantastic.
Oh.
I can't wait for everybody to hear it. It's really good.
Thank you very much.
I like because you say like you talk about the anger and in it, and like when I hear it, I love how the anger doesn't destroy something; it creates a beautiful melody. Was that your intention when you were doing that, or was that just like a bit?
I mean, yeah. I mean, kind of, yeah. Like, sort of finding that anger and like holding it. You know, like it being a very kind of contained thing, and it being a source of like sort of self-knowledge and confidence. That's the feeling I wanted to give.
It portrays. It comes through very clear, or at least for me, it did.
Great, perfect.
What are you willing to divulge, if anything, about your upcoming album?
Okay, it's kind of a world. It's kind of a world and a story, and each track shows a different side of it. So there's no two tracks that were written in the same way. That like some of them were written on acoustic guitar, some of them were written with electronics, some just like some weird sample that I kind of like sort of wanted to like evolve. And like, yeah, for me each one is its own sort of soundscape. So I don't know if you would have heard the first single I released, but that like that's already a very different palette to Walker. And it's kind of like that, like each track is a different part of the world, is a different scene. And yeah, there's like a story that kind of moves through it, which is not like, it's not expressed literally. Like you wouldn't be like, oh, this happens, then this happens, but like you're definitely picking up on like characters and moods and events and like there being a journey.
Oh, that's awesome. I cannot wait to hear it. Did you find any song harder than others to record?
Yes. There's a track, not either of these two, but possibly the next single that was a very, very long time in the making. I kind of one of these ones that you're collecting bits and pieces. It's very riffy. It's very prog. And I was just kind of gathering these riffs and being like, well, that has something in common. That has something in common. That's a similar sort of groove. But then like the actual confidence to sort of assemble it all and like be sure that I'd arranged it right. It took a very long time to be sure. And then even then, it wasn't till I got drums recorded that I really was like, oh yes, no, this definitely has the momentum, has the energy to, you know, it has the sort of strength of its convictions. So yeah, that was really a course of like years.
What was the easiest thing about recording the album?
What was easy about it? I mean, I always wanted to do it. I think that's that helps. A lot of it's home recorded, so like I have a nice like mic set up here, and working with like synths and VSTs and stuff, and like having that kind of oversight and control where it's not sort of like, oh, you go into a studio, you print something, and then you're stuck with it. It's like I always had the freedom to adjust and adapt, and like, oh, I've changed something with the drum part. That means that if I can change, I can like restructure or like cut it out or like double up a layer or something. Like the flexibility, I think, of it being like home recorded has been great. And like, I think that's how I want to work always, basically.
That's perfect, because that leads into the next question. It said, aside from working with Adam Betts on drums, you recorded the album on your own. Is it a lonely process like writing, or do you thrive in that quiet environment?
Yeah, you like, I think, because it's been a lot, like, I also released another album that's just on like Bandcamp. So I've been doing it this way for quite a long time, and I'm quite used to it. Like, I think I definitely like yeah, I like having the time and the chance to feel things out over a while. I'd be like, oh no, that doesn't really sit right. Like I can sort of dial that in better. But I think coming to the end of this sort of album process, I'm starting to play with a drummer now, and I'm like looking at other collaborations, and I think like I'm quite I'm quite enthusiastic about like now coming and like working stuff out in the room with other people and like making it more of a collaborative process. Because I started like that. Like I originally like I started playing guitar like with my friend's dad, just like jamming, messing around. And yeah, I definitely like I love music as like a social kind of spontaneous thing as well.
Oh, perfect. So you worked with I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Anik Kapar, for
I think
additional, yeah, for an additional production. Was there anything that he taught you when it came to production that you didn't know?
loads. I mean, I'm self-taught and chaotic, and I have like I can do a lot of things, but I have loads of bad habits. And when he got hold of the files, the first thing he did was like, "What the heck? Like, what are you doing? What is all this? Why have you got 50 stems on this for this one track? Like, why is everything peaking? Like, there was that like on a couple of tracks in particular, he said like you have like terrible housekeeping, and you need to get this stuff sorted because you'll be able to mix better as you go." And that's been true. Like my I don't know, my ability to like mix myself has improved a lot just by listening to what he's doing and kind of like being organized and clean and blah. But then yeah, he's just got an ear for kind of what sounds like right and proper, and it's all just jumped up a level since he's been on board. And like it'll be bits where like and this is, you know, he finds this annoying, but like he'll mix what I've sent him, and like suddenly there'll be loads of space in the mix, and I'll go, oh cool, I want to add 5 more layers. I'll grab it off him. So yeah, it's taken a while because yeah, it's been like a back and forth.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when did you realize you had synesthesia? Is that pronounced right?
Synesthesia, yeah. I don't like. It's weird because I've always had the thing, but I didn't realize that it wasn't that normal for a while. So I've always had like very vivid sort of kind of color and pattern associations with music. Like I just any little lick or line of I'm seeing it like spatially, and it's being like and like I don't know, they're like little sort of moving diagrams or like sort of sparkly things. And that's been true as long as I can remember. Sort of messing around with drugs when I was younger, like kind of brought that to a like a higher level, and I think probably a lot of people can like relate to that. But I was aware that like that was the main reason I was curious about stuff like that, because I was like, oh, this thing has been here, and now I can really like just completely engage with it. Yeah. And then sort of at some point I got really into meditation, and then that became a whole thing where you just with a certain amount of sensory deprivation, like eyes shut, no sound, I found that I was visualizing and kind of like sort of, I don't know what the word is, like audio version of visualizing with quite a lot of like really vividly, really intensely, just filling that silence, filling that space with something. So yeah, and I it feels pretentious to say, oh, I have synesthesia, because it sounds like one of these like really far out things. But then I was like, well, what else is it?
Yeah.
And it's quite pervasive, and it kind of like it does kind of inform how I approach stuff, like musically and in life generally. Like I'm aware of it quite a lot of the time.
Is there one, like you said you saw shapes, colors, and texture? Is there one element that trumps another, or are they all equal?
I guess equal, or like they're not all always at the same time, I guess, or like not like, yeah, it's not always dominant. But yeah, I mean, I have a sort of hunch that everyone's a bit synesthesic, and if they sort of kind of like really like clocked into it, they'd realize they were having like a kind of sympathetic color reaction when they listen to music a lot of the time, or like, you know, this thing where like you ask people what color each day of the week is, and everyone goes, oh yeah, no, like Monday's red, and but like whatever else, they've never thought about synesthesia, but like people have a stronger feeling on that for some reason. So I wonder if everyone is, or they
I
have
agree.
access. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I'll see people and I'm like, oh, that person's purple today. You know, like
Right.
just walking by them, like, why purple? You know?
I mean, there's something there. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something to be that you could dig into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it make you a better artist?
Well, I would say it's some place that's tangible where I can really evaluate what I'm doing and being like, is this element in keeping with this element, or like, you know, is everything pushing towards kind of a common goal here? And maybe it's something I channel when I perform. Like I kind of like jump into that color or that feel or that mood a little bit. Like I think it's all really just trying to be as intuitive as possible, kind of feel it.
Does it ever affect your creative process negatively or positively?
Probably positively. I can't think of a time when it's been like an obstacle or something. Yeah.
On your creative process, what comes first when you're starting a new song?
Yeah, it's really random. Like I have this sort of, I don't really like to do things the same way twice. So there was a point where I was writing a lot of lyrics and then kind of finding melodies and like making tunes around them, and then kind of got more into like, I'd have a tune and I'd like have some stuff going on, and then I would get I would go in front of a microphone and just like record myself going like singing some melodies. And what was interesting about that is like some real like strong kind of vowel sort of sounds would start to suggest themselves, and then I'm quite attached to that. And then vowel sounds have feelings connected because of the way you move the mouth and stuff. So there's already a mood there, and then words start to suggest themselves. And then like what I found was that like that would produce stuff that felt very emotionally honest. It didn't just feel like coming up with lyrics to fit a song. It actually came up, it felt like something quite coherent, quite relevant, quite on point. So I've done a bit of that. And then yeah, like at other times it's been more like working with sound design, or you know, like trying out a rhythm. So yeah, I really at the moment I can't think of 2 tracks on this album that like I've approached in the same way at all.
Oh, that's awesome. What do you find easier to create, music or the visuals?
I think probably the visual, because I'm newer to it, and I don't have I'm not that sort of judgy about myself yet. Like I think with music it's all very 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 specific, and I'm really like, I kind of know exactly what I'm going for, and it's like I bully myself with it. But with the visuals, I'm still at that phase of being really like just pleased with what I can come up with, and it's like a technical achievement, and I'm like, yes,
That's
that
awesome.
worked great.
What inspires your lyrics the most?
Well, life. I mean, it's like I've sort of set things up in this world and this story, but then like at the same time, everything is just true, real life. Like experiences I've had, and kind of like moments of like feeling and mood that feel really oh, I want to capture that. Like that's one worth holding on to. Yeah, so yeah, like I don't know, like the last single, Spider Silk, was really about like letting go and kind of embracing and being uncertain and being vulnerable. And then Walker, this is really about that kind of like moment where you really just sort of land in yourself and you be like, I'm here, let's go. So that, yeah, it feels like in a way it's kind of like, oh, it's just a specific moment and a specific feeling, and this is where I'm at. And like, yeah, and the kind of color and description and stuff that goes along like around that. But yeah.
What's in store for 2024?
24 is a big year. I'll be releasing the full album, possibly with a couple more singles on the way, and working on a live show with other musicians, which will at some point become an audio-visual show. I would like to be able to perform the whole album, 45 minutes, with back projection, with just like a sort of visual score accompanying, and yeah, to take that to some festivals, hopefully do some concerts in venues with big screens, and yeah, hopefully really kind of present this as like a full body of work.
That'd be awesome to see. So we've got 3 questions that we always ask.
Okay.
What's an artist, or who is an artist or band that you feel is most underrated, and why?
Well, this might sound cheeky because I know them, but there's a UK band called Luo who I've been following for about 12 years, who are doing a kind of like glitchy live electronic with math rock kind of thing, and I think they're criminally underrated. I mean, I've been following them for years, and they just it's such good composition, and it's really sexy music, and I just can't understand why they're not like just headlining festivals.
I'll have to check them out. What artist or band would you like to collaborate with, and why?
Same, or but also maybe, oh god, what's good? Oh, I'm blanking. 65 Days of Static, who I've loved for years, and I kind of sometimes I feel like what I'm doing is like a sort of a version of their music, but with like lyrics, with a sort of with a vocalist performer. So like, it would be really interesting one day if I sort of ended up doing something with them where we did that, like exactly that.
Awesome. And the last question is, what artist or band would you like to tour with, and why?
Who's touring? Okay.
Doesn't have to be currently touring.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. So, I would love to like maybe now or maybe go back in time and tour with the Mars Volta. I think it would be so fun to play with them, and yeah, be part of that.
I can definitely see that. That's a good choice.
I saw them. This is just a short story. Like I saw them in London in about 2005, and I remember it always being like one of my favorite gigs. Like really like wonderful energy and like huge like improvised passages and stuff. And then they've got a documentary that's just come out following sort of charting the sort of rise and sort of disappearance of the band. And there's just at some point they kind of mentioned that like that maybe that was their favorite gig as well.
And you're like, I was there.
Yeah. What a cool thing to hear.
And they're an underrated band as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like those who know them love them, and those who don't are like, what?
Yeah. Much beloved, but still underrated.
Yeah. That's all I have for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
What a
Thank you
lovely
so much.
interview.
Thank you. That means a lot.